What's up, brainy people and hip hop heads? Today we are talking about the neuroscience of Kendrick Lamar. Yep, Kung Fu Kenny, K-Dot, certified boogeyman. He isn't just making music, he is basically giving your brain a full workout. Let's break it down as to why his tracks don't just slap, they basically rewire your neurons. 1. Storytelling and empathy button. Neuroscience says stories hijack the default mode network, which is the daydream and self-reflection part of your brain. And the amygdala? Yeah, that's the emotional alarm system. And Kendrick's verses hit like a wrecking ball. When K-Dot raps about identity, struggle, and redemption, you're not just hearing it, your brain is basically living it. Which explains why one song in and you're like, who gave Kendrick access to my diary? Who let him in? Who let this man in my house? Who? 2, rhythms that hack your motor cortex. Kendrick's flow, it's like he's rapping in 4D. He's weaving, dodging invisible punches, and then weaving back onto the beat. Those syncopated rhythms wake up your auditory cortex and your basal ganglia, the part of your brain that controls movement. Translation, your brain is dancing before your body even knows what's happening. Basically, listening to Kendrick is like CrossFit for neurons. Who needs a gym membership when you have to pimp a butterfly? 3, emotional dopamine fireworks. When Kendrick drops a track like All Right, boom! Dopamine fireworks. That's your brain's reward chemical. And it's also the thing that makes things like chocolate, TikTok, and petting a puppy feel really amazing. Neuroscience shows that when a song gives you chills, dopamine spikes, especially at those dramatic beat switches. So yeah, Kendrick is basically like a DJ at a rave party inside your head. Cognitive flexibility, or brain yoga. Kendrick doesn't just rap bars, he drops thesis statements. When Kendrick raps about race, culture, and society, he is working out your anterior cingulate cortex, which is the part of your brain that helps you think more flexibly and challenges biases. So if your brain feels like it's doing yoga poses that you didn't know existed, that's Kendrick. Except instead of downward facing dog, it's upward social awareness. 5, mindfulness and self-reflection. Kendrick's introspective lyrics, that's mindfulness training in disguise. Neuroscience shows that reflection boosts your prefrontal cortex, your brain's CEO, and it quiets the amygdala, your emotional trigger, which loves to freak out. Basically, Kendrick's giving you a guided meditation, but with better beats. Who knew Kung Fu Kenny was also Guru Kenny? So, what did we learn? Kendrick Lamar isn't just a rapper. He's a neuroscientist in disguise. His music boosts empathy, hacks your motor cortex, showers your brain with dopamine, stretches your worldview, and sneaks in mindfulness training. Honestly, forget the textbook, just put on damn and call it your neuroscience homework. Thanks for vibing with me, YouTube fam. Drop a comment if you feel inclined. If Kung Fu Kenny ever gave you chills, remember to hit that like button. And also remember that when you're listening to Kung Fu Kenny, you're not just enjoying music. Your brain is being rewired while you party. Have a great one. Speak soon. Peace. Kendrick Lamar didn't just perform the 2025 Super Bowl halftime show. He hacked our brains. I'm talking dopamine surges, amygdala alarms, and mirror neurons doing backflips. So buckle up. We're diving into the neuroscience of Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show performance and why 133 million people are still replaying it in their heads. Part 1, attention and surprise. First off, the brain loves surprise. Kendrick knows this. So the second Samuel L. Jackson, dressed as Uncle Sam, told him to tone it down, our amygdalas perked up. The amygdala is basically your brain's alarm bell. It scans for threat or novelty. So by setting up a rule, don't be too loud, don't be too ghetto, Kendrick, through Sam, primes us. Then, boom, he breaks that rule with the song Humble. Be humble. Sit down. Surprise releases dopamine from the brain's ventral tegmental area, basically the brain's party starter. This makes the performance stick in your memory. Part 2, gaming the brain. Okay, let's talk stage design. Kendrick built a literal PlayStation controller underneath his feet. Why? Because your brain loves predictive coding. We see familiar shapes, X, square, triangle, circle, and the brain's visual cortex goes, hey, I know that. That recognition loop gives your brain a tiny dopamine reward. Combine it with a narrative, with each symbol being a different level of America's game, and suddenly our prefrontal cortex is juggling political commentary while our striatum is saying, hey, this feels fun. Let's keep playing. Part 3, emotional resonance and the amygdala. Then SZA floats in with Luther. Neuroscientifically, this was genius. After the tension of Uncle Sam and diss tracks, your amygdala is firing like a smoke detector. Kendrick then gives you relief with melody and harmony, activating the parasympathetic nervous system. Basically telling your body, you can chill, you're okay, we're okay, everything's fine. The contrast, fear spike followed by calm, creates what neuroscientists call an emotional cocktail, making the performance unforgettable. Think of it as the emotional version of hot sauce followed by ice cream. Your brain loves the mix, and the combination makes it 10 times stickier in your brain and viscerally. Part 4, diss tracks and the reward circuit. Okay, the Drake diss. This is where things get primal. Diss tracks light up your mesolimbic reward pathway. That's your nucleus accumbens, ventral striatum, the whole dopamine squad. Why? Because our brains have evolved to enjoy social dominance displays. When Kendrick drops a lyrical uppercut, your brain responds like your team just scored a touchdown. When you add in the crowd roaring, this triggers mirror neurons in the premotor cortex. And suddenly you're mentally shadowboxing in your living room. Part 5, breath control and neuroplasticity. A fun fact, Kendrick prepared for months for this performance by running daily. Aerobic exercise doesn't just help stamina, it actually boosts hippocampal neurogenesis. That means more brain cells for memory and focus. On stage, Kendrick's phenomenal respiratory control kept oxygen flowing, stabilizing his prefrontal cortex so he could rap intricate verses without gasping. Basically, jogging is Kendrick's secret neural cheat code. Part 6, visual symbolism and cognitive dissonance. One of the most striking visuals, the fractured American flag. Neuroscience calls this cognitive dissonance. That's when your brain holds two conflicting ideas at once. The flag says unity, but the split says division. That dissonance triggers activity in the brain's anterior cingulate cortex, the brain's conflict monitor. And what happens when you feel conflict? You pay more attention. You remember it more vividly. Kendrick made politics feel visceral by literally splitting America on stage. Part 7, the turn his TV off, and then peak mic drop. Kendrick ends with turn his TV off, which many people heard as turn your TV off or turn the TV off. Whichever way you heard it, from a brain perspective, that's what's known as a pattern interrupt. For 12 minutes, you've been glued to lights, beats, and symbols during the performance. Suddenly, your brain's default mode network, your introspective hub, kicks in. Turn his TV off. Turn your TV off. Turn the TV off. It's like Kendrick handed your mind a mirror, your introspective hub, to pause, to think, to reflect. Studies show that these jarring breaks boost memory consolidation in the hippocampus. Translation, you'll never forget that moment. Part 8, why this works. So, why did this halftime show hit so hard? Because Kendrick wasn't just rapping, he was conducting a neural symphony. He tugged at your amygdala with tension, spiked your dopamine with surprise, engaged your prefrontal cortex with symbolism, and let your mirror neurons dance along with the crowd. Kendrick built a performance that hijacked the same brain systems that we use for learning, survival, and joy. It wasn't just music, it was neuroscience in motion. So the next time someone tells you hip hop is just noise or entertainment, you can reply, oh, no, actually it's a neural workout. Kendrick Lamar turned the Super Bowl halftime show into a psychology experiment, and we all signed up. So, what moment rewired your brain the most? Drop it in the comments, hit like if your dopamine spiked, and subscribe for more deep dives into the science of culture. Alrighty then, let's talk about the song that has become an anthem, a diss track, and a neuroscience experiment all rolled into one. Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us. Now, you might be thinking, hold on, why are we bringing neuroscience into a rap beef? Well, my friends, because your neurons have been partying just as hard as your speakers. 1. Why this song hits hard. First things first, the beat. That mustard-produced West Coast sound is tailor-made to trigger your dopamine system. When that bass drops, your nucleus accumbens, the brain's reward hub, lights up like the New York Times Square Christmas tree the day after Thanksgiving. And the song doesn't just deliver vibes. Your brain loves prediction and reward. The tight rhythm pattern sets up an expectation. And then boom, the beat switches slightly. The hi-hats stutter, and your brain releases a dopamine burst. It's the same mechanism behind why people replay this song nonstop. Your brain basically says, again, again, again. 2, the hook as a chant. Now, let's talk about the hook. They Not Like Us. Simple, repetitive, almost tribal. This repetition activates the motor cortex and Broca's area, the same part of your brain involved in speech and movement. That's why people chant it like it's a stadium anthem. Your brain wires itself to want to join in. It's not just music, it's synchrony engineering. Synchrony engineering is the psychology of collective movement. In neuroscience terms, Kendrick wrote a hook that literally hacks your mirror neurons. When you see a crowd chant the hook, your brain wants to copy it. 3. Diss tracks and the amygdala. Of course, Not Like Us is not just catchy, it's a diss. And that's where the amygdala comes in. The amygdala is your brain's threat detector. That part of your brain that goes danger, or fight, or flee. When K-Dot calls out his opponent with surgical precision, your amygdala reacts as if you're witnessing a gladiator battle. The sharp metaphors and targeted lines give you a little hit of adrenaline and cortisol, which are the same chemicals involved in competitive sports and survival. That's why diss tracks feel like competitive sports, boxing matches even, set to music. 4. Dance plus movement. Now, add in dance. TikTok lit this song up with the Super Bowl halftime show Not Like Us Dance Challenge. Why? Because movement circuits in the brain, the cerebellum, basal ganglia, and motor cortex tied to music reinforces memory. So when you're bouncing side to side, doing the dance, your brain is literally strengthening the song's memory trace. You'll never forget the beat because the body helped store it. 5. Social bonding and cultural impact. Here's the big picture. Not Like Us works not just as a diss, not just as a hit, but as a neural social bonding tool. Singing it together triggers oxytocin release, which is the bonding hormone. That's the same thing that choirs and protest chants do. Kendrick basically turned a rap beef tune into a worldwide community ritual. So whether you're at a club, a concert, or just yelling it at your car stereo, you're not just vibing, you're bonding with millions of others in real time. Your brain loves it. Why? Because our brains are wired for connection through rhythm and storytelling. So, the neuroscience of Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us: dopamine for the beat, mirror neurons for the chant, amygdala hype for the disses, motor cortex for the dance, and oxytocin for the unity. In other words, it's not just a banger, it's a brain takeover. Kendrick didn't just win a rap battle, he also won the neurological war. So, which Kendrick track rewired your brain the most? Drop it in the comments. Until next time, stay moving, stay joyful, and stay curious. Have a great one. Peace. Question: what happens when you mix Juneteenth, Inglewood, California, and Kendrick Lamar? You don't just get a concert. You get a full-blown neural fireworks show inside your brain. Today, we are breaking down the neuroscience of Kendrick Lamar's 2024 Inglewood, California Juneteenth pop-out concert. And this one is personal for me because I was at the pop-out and I am a native of LA. We will talk about why the pop-out concert felt so personal, why people said it gave them chills, and why your brain is still thinking about it and we are still talking about it over a year later and probably will continue to talk about it for years to come. Part 1, the context. First things first, the setting matters. The concert was in Inglewood, California, Kendrick's home turf of Los Angeles. on Juneteenth. That's a double whammy for meaning. Neuroscience tells us that context shapes emotion. The amygdala, which is the part of your brain that processes emotional salience, lights up stronger when an experience connects with your personal or cultural identity. So for fans in LA on Juneteenth, our amygdalas weren't just awake, they were on fire. We were waving the Compton flag or the LA flag, if there is such a thing, saying this moment matters. Part 2, music and dopamine. Kendrick's beats hit and suddenly, boom, dopamine rush. We were spiked. Dopamine is your brain's reward chemical, and live music is one of your brain's biggest dopamine triggers, especially when you know the lyrics to a song. Studies show that anticipating a particular beat drop or a favorite verse, it spikes dopamine in your brain even before it happens. So when Kendrick opened his pop-out concert with Euphoria and the entire Inglewood Forum screamed the lyrics in unison, that was a dopamine tsunami, rewarding everyone just for being in sync. Part 3, social brain synchrony. Speaking of being in sync, concerts literally synchronize brains. Neuroscientists call it interbrain synchrony. When a group of people chant, sing, or clap together in rhythm, their brain waves actually align. This boosts oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone. This explains why strangers at a show suddenly feel like family. Again, since I was at the pop-out, I can attest that that is exactly what happened. And no, I did not bond with any bots. There were human beings, over 16,000 human beings actually bonding. At Kendrick's pop-out, when thousands of people rapped bar for bar with him, that wasn't just fandom. That was neuroscience, turning the crowd into one giant neuroscientific heartbeat. Part 4, the chills effect. Ever get goosebumps during a performance? That's called frisson, a mini aesthetic chill. This happens when your brain's auditory cortex, which processes sound, and your reward system fire at the same time. Add in the hippocampus, the memory center, and suddenly a lyric connects with your personal story. That's why when Kendrick performs tracks tied to personal struggle, freedom, and pride, like Humble, DNA, Element, and All Right, fans don't just hear the music. We feel it deep in our nervous system. Part 5, Juneteenth plus collective healing. And here's the most powerful part. It was Juneteenth. The neuroscience of collective meaning says that when people gather together to celebrate culture and history, the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that assigns significance, goes into overdrive. Pair that with dopamine, oxytocin, and cultural pride, the result is something bigger than a concert. It's a neurochemical act of collective healing. That's why fans describe Kendrick's pop-out concert not just as a concert or a show or a performance, but as history. Conclusion. So yeah, Kendrick didn't just perform on Juneteenth in Inglewood in 2024. He literally rewired thousands of brains in real time. Dopamine, oxytocin, synchrony, frisson, they were all firing like fireworks. Music is powerful, but when it's tied to culture, community, and meaning, that's when it becomes neuroscience magic. So, what about you? Did you watch Kendrick's pop-out concert live or online? Did you feel the chills, the goosebumps, the pride? Drop your experience in the comments. And let's geek out on the brain science of all of it together. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to receive more neuroscience of music breakdowns. Until next time, keep your brain buzzing and your playlist bumping. Peace. What happens in your brain when music from the past gets reimagined into a brand new hit? Today, we are diving deep into the neuroscience of nostalgia, vocal delivery, and emotional resonance through Luther Vandross and Cheryl Lynn's 1982 classic, If This World Were Mine, and how Kendrick Lamar and SZA transformed those timeless vocals into their 2025 chart-topping hit, Luther. This isn't just about sampling. It's about memory, emotion, and how Kendrick and SZA's smooth delivery hits us right in the soul. Part 1. The original. Luther and Cheryl's emotional blueprint. When Luther and Cheryl recorded If This World Were Mine in 1982, they weren't just singing. They were sculpting emotion. Luther's velvet voice and Cheryl's soaring harmonies created a duet that mapped directly into our limbic systems, which is the emotional command center of the brain. Neuroscientists know that slow, soulful phrasing activates the nucleus accumbens, the brain's reward center, which releases dopamine. That's why Luther's voice feels like warm honey. It literally floods your brain with feel-good neurochemicals. Part 2. Memory and sampling. Why old songs feel brand new. Here's where it gets fascinating. When Kendrick and SZA weave Luther and Cheryl's vocals into Luther, they are activating what neuroscientists call associative memory networks. That means the hippocampus, which is the part of your brain that records memory, it lights up. If you grew up on Luther, your memory instantly recalls the first time you heard his music. If you didn't, the soulful tone still triggers inherited cultural memory, which is passed down through parents, repetition, playlists, and even movie soundtracks. This is why music samples feel so powerful. They're like time machines wired straight into your neural circuitry. Part 3. Kendrick and SZA's smooth delivery and neural entrainment. Now, let's talk about Kendrick Lamar first. We'll get to SZA in a minute. In Luther, Kendrick's vocal style shifts between rapping and near singing. Neuroscientists call this prosody, which is the rhythm, pitch, and intonation of speech. When Kendrick raps smoothly, our brains unconsciously sync to his flow through a process called neural entrainment. Essentially, our brain waves fall in rhythm with his delivery. This creates a hypnotic effect. You don't just hear Kendrick, you feel him. Part 4. SZA's layer and the neuroscience of harmony. SZA's voice is breathy, textured, lively, and energetic. And this is contrasted alongside Luther's soulful, smooth, timeless vocals. This contrast activates the auditory cortex in a special way. Our brains are wired to love harmonies, but with slight imperfections, because they feel human, intimate, and real. That's why when SZA and Kendrick trade lines over Luther's sampled vocals, the song becomes more than music. It's a neural symphony blending eras, textures, and emotional states. Part 5, why Luther became a #1 hit. Science meets culture here. Luther wasn't just a hit because of catchy hooks. It tapped into 3 powerful neuroscientific principles. Number 1, nostalgia and memory encoding. Luther and Cheryl's timeless vocals trigger emotional recall. Number 2, reward pathways. Smooth delivery and soulful harmonies release dopamine. Number 3, rhythmic synchrony. Kendrick and SZA's flow literally synchronizes brain activity. Put this all together and you've got a song that feels both classic and brand new. Closing, music as neural time travel. So when you listen to Luther, you're not just hearing a song, you're experiencing decades of soul, memory, and innovation, all woven together in your brain's emotional circuitry. That's the neuroscience of music. It's history, it's emotion, and it's science, all in one sound wave. So I'm curious, what is the first Luther Vandross song you ever heard? Can you remember? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell if you want more deep dives into the neuroscience of music.